Alright, guys, it's time for the last power rankings video of the season. We're heading into the playoffs, and this will be the last one of this as the season finale. Let's jump straight into it, Jaden. 32 for me. I have no change. Vancouver Canucks, bottom of the standings, bottom of the power rankings.
Yeah, understandable. I went 29, but
Oof.
understandable.
He likes their last. He likes their little
They had a good playoff run, going
look.
for it, but they
Yeah.
didn't make it.
Yeah, yeah, they left it a little too late, you know. Look, 4-6-0 in their last 10, so you're not wrong there. They have been better, getting together a couple of wins, but I think they had 11 shots against Vegas, 12 shots against the Oilers. I just, even though they've gotten a couple of wins, I just think there's a reason they're bottom. They've been ordinary, and I just couldn't promote them.
Yeah, nah, it's not really they played good. Some other teams capitulated, and I go by like fairly recent, not overall season.
I'm
On,
interested to see
on
your 32. This is going to
yeah,
be
I might get a lot of love and a lot of hate. There's probably no in between. My number 32 is Toronto.
Look, I'm 31. They would have been if I moved Vancouver, they would have been 32. So I get your reasoning.
Yeah,
I get
look,
your
lost
point.
their last five, 2-7-1 last 10. And it's just how they lost, like played as well. It just looked
Mhm.
horrible. It looked like Vancouver. Like that's the best way to put it. Um, and yeah, like there was just no positives besides trying to get the best draft pick possible to get
Mhm.
your best chances of not giving away to Boston. But I think going by the statistics was like 58% or 50 something percent of giving it to Boston. Um,
Yeah,
and then the rest is either fifth or higher.
yeah,
Um, so yeah, I'm expecting some hilarity in that department. But ultimately, look, changing GMs. A lot of things are going to change. Probably want to see Berube get fired as well. Just
mm,
because you don't want to do what they did last time, change GM, run the same coach, then fire the coach. You just waste another year. So
yeah, yeah. Look, I think it's they would have been aiming to drop another position or two just to guarantee that that pick doesn't go to Boston. But um, yeah, at the moment now, it's even though the Leaf season's over, it's still a tense wait for Leafs fans because if that pick goes to Boston, their lives just go from bad to worse. All right, 30th for me, I've got the Chicago Blackhawks.
yeah, 31.
Yeah, it's crazy. They actually beat Seattle a couple of weeks ago. And I was teetering. These were the two teams I was teetering with at 30. But I just couldn't bring myself to actually put them above Seattle. 2-7-1 in their last 10. Yeah, they haven't been good. Look, neither Seattle either, to be fair. But yeah, like they haven't done anything to warrant a promotion, and they haven't. Yeah, they probably played as bad as Seattle. So I just sat there and went,
Yeah,
"There's no move more outside of above Toronto," and that's only because Toronto have been that bad.
yeah.
Um,
Speaking of Seattle, my 30.
yeah, they're my
As
29.
as we're just talking about them. Yeah, 2-8 in the last 10, lost the last three. Goal scoring is a problem. I'm expecting them to go get a goal scorer, whether it's and probably poach, like maybe overpay or something. But I'm expecting big off season for them in that regards.
Yeah,
Um, but yeah, just they looked horrendous. All these four bottom teams did. At the ends, they you know got a couple good games here and there, but they're against Pacific teams that are the weakest of the bunch. Like, so it's like,
yeah,
how good is your is those victories in a sense? And
yeah. They were
they yeah
they were being spoken about as a potential playoff team only, 3 or 4 weeks back.
yeah
Um, and to finish 11 points out of a playoff spot is pretty
yeah
embarrassing.
yeah they did a Detroit fall. Um,
Yeah, well, speaking of Detroit, if you want to bring that up,
we'll just keep
that's
doing
my
that. Huh?
yeah, that's my 28. You
That's
just
I said
walked
that
me
because
right
that's
in
my
there.
28. Yep.
Yeah, yeah, 100%. Yeah, look, talking about absolute train wrecks. I could have had these guys at 32. What
Yes.
a train wreck of a season. 16th in the standings, so I do feel for Detroit fans because
On standings wise, they
two
make
six
it.
and
Yeah.
yeah, 2 6 and 2 in their last 10. You've also got to feel because they were 12th at one point, and I think they were like 12th or 13th when they were mathematically eliminated. So like that is soul crushing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like be that high
I'm
in
over the. Was it the Eiserman? The Eiserman. Eiserman. Uh,
Heisman plan. Yeah,
I'm
Heisman
over
plan.
the Eiserman plan. I was for a while, but the Justin Falk trade solidified it for me because I don't rate Justin Falk at all. Um, and
And it's an
but
unprotected
they've
first.
like the coach has said it really well. They've got a compete issue there at Detroit.
Mm,
It's why March becomes a problem, and
yeah.
that comes down to roster and management. So I don't put it on the coach. He did probably the best he could with the roster that was given. That capitulates in March, no matter what. Um,
Yep.
moving on to 27 for me, Winnipeg.
Ooh,
I think I'm
I have.
finally out of the teams that were vying for last place.
Yeah, look, if you had these guys as a chance for last place, I'd be like, what's going on? But they're
Well,
my
they did lose
26.
their last four. So
They
It,
did.
it, it could have been viable in a sense, but they're 5-5 in the last 10. They were on a little bit of a streak before the final losing streak, which I'm guessing management said, "Hey, start losing games." But it doesn't work like that for players. But yeah, it's a very disappointing season for the Jets. They've been down this ballpark area, 20 and below, for a long time now, and it's just a team that roster wise probably shouldn't have been there. So it's going to be interesting if it's just one of those hiccup seasons and then they come firing out again. But yeah, you definitely this is definitely put in the back of your brain and bury it season.
Yeah, no, fair, that cool. All right, on to my 27, Calgary Flames.
25.
Yeah, look, not a great. I said to you this off air when I was talking about. I didn't realize they finished 29th in the standings.
I just I,
Like,
I just want to point out it's like crazy. I went up 2 and you went down 4. That's how crazy the end of the season
oh yeah,
was.
and but like Calgary, I looked at the standings and I'm like, they're 29th. They're fourth favorite to
Mm,
get the first overall pick. And I just went like thinking about their season. I know they started really bad, but we were talking about them making a run and potentially going to playoffs at one point. And now we're talking about them fourth favorite for the first overall. It's just it's a wacky season. Like they had some really good moments where they were a strong team. They just seemed to be a consistency issue where they couldn't sustain those winning streaks. But yeah, for them to be fourth last in the standings, I was shocked.
yeah.
Um,
Yeah, look, they've been below 500 for a long time though. They've been very consistent in that regards, and I guess consistency has left them here. Um, yeah, the hardest thing they got roster issues. You got a lot to fix in the regards to the roster with too many overcapped. They probably should have sold more to get better assets, etc. But we move on for another season for them. Hopefully, they can change it around pretty quick. Anaheim at 26, a team where
in
yeah,
the
in
playoffs.
the playoffs is down at 26, so not a good end to the season. Um, yeah, I don't even know what to say in regards to it. Like I felt like they capitulated over the last like month, like not like
Yeah.
in a sense, like it was they've been either really hot or really cold. There hasn't been really an in between for Anaheim, and
No.
that's what worries me. I don't think they do too much impact in the playoffs because of that. You kind of have
Well,
to be hot consistently, and they have not been this season.
the crazy thing is if they go on one of their hot runs, they could make it to the Western Conference Finals before they go on their cold run.
Yeah, I think they would get to like end of round two. Like they
Yeah,
they they, they
and
would probably like they won the first 3 games in round two, and then they'd lose the next four. That's kind of
yeah,
if they did that run.
capitulate. Yeah.
yeah, it'd be one of those capitulations. Yeah.
But it's crazy. They've had some like, you know, uh, just going off the top of my head, like 12 2-1 runs, and then they've gone and on the next 15 games they've gone 5 8 and 2.
Yeah.
And it's like how can you have those two? And that's why like every time I've moved the Ducks up this season, I've been very hesitant to do so because I'm like, well, they're probably just gonna let me down in 2 weeks' time. Um, yeah, disappointing for sure. All right, 25 for me. I have the Florida Panthers.
23.
Oh, he's moving on the Panthers.
Yeah, no, I think they've
Late.
finished strong. That's about it.
It's they finish strong. They do. They win their last three. They're 5-4-1 in their last 10. The issue I had around them is they like winning your last three games when the season's done is almost negligent because it's just like it's like what's the point? Like you're not playing for anything. It's over. It's like the teams up the top when they lose their last two or three games, but they've known who they're playing and their standings has been locked in for the last 15 games. It's like, oh, it's not that big of a deal.
Yeah.
Um, and that's how I sort of treated this the last three-game win. And they obviously get the massive 8-1 win against Detroit, which I didn't point out when we did Detroit. Way to finish your season. But again, you're coming up against a Detroit team who is absolutely gutted. They would have been completely checked out. Panthers just took advantage of that. It's wild. And I know the Panthers didn't have a full NHL roster in that game either, which made it even worse for Detroit. But yeah, it's just I don't put that much on it. I've increased them by 3 spots, but yeah.
Yeah, I don't like all these probably 20 and below. I don't rate these teams. And 24 for me, Columbus with another big fall.
They had
Probably
20.
the biggest disappointment of the end season, maybe for
Mhm.
me, because I was
Especially with how good they were
yeah,
in the
I
lead
had
up.
I had high hopes for them this season, and with how everything was going, so not making the playoffs is very detrimental in that regards. And look,
Yeah.
2-7-1, you know, Ducks were 2-6-2. These teams did not end well. Detroit was Detroit was 2-6-2 as well. So yeah, like they just I don't know. They ended with 2-7-1, but they were the first team in these bottom 16 that has a neutral goal differential.
Hmm.
Basically, 16 and lower negative besides Columbus. That's how well they played. 40 wins. It's honestly a decent season. It just yeah, it just fell apart at times. But
Yeah,
Werenski is a monster.
he is.
Like they've
He's probably
it,
winning Norris.
yeah, well, he should, and if Bouchard wins it, then people need to be destroyed. But
Yeah. Yeah.
things need to be obliterated. Because it's a defenseman's trophy. But anyway, and I know Werenski's got a lot of offense, but he just looks really, really good. And
Mm.
just another disappointing season for me because I was really high on this team. I thought they would maybe do not as well as a Buffalo did, but kind of that Buffalo run to
Mm.
into the playoffs. But they just yeah just kept on tripping over themselves.
Yeah, exactly. They faltered last season as well, right at the finish line. So yeah, unfortunate, but we move on. 24 for me, I got the San Jose Sharks.
22.
Yeah, look, great season from these guys. They finished the season up 5-4-1 in their last 10. Um, but nothing but positivity for this team because they took massive inroads to becoming the team that they're going to be in the future. A lot of like, I mean, Celebrini's just an absolute freak, but so much other growth from their young players as well, um, which is just what you want to see. Like this team, yes, they were sitting in a playoff spot, and yes, they sort of dropped off towards the end, but this is what you expect from a young team. They're going to be
Yeah.
strong and you're going to see good positive signs and then they're going to fall back because they're not conditioned to play the full 82 yet. But what you saw from the Sharks this season is just that is how good that they can be once they are conditioned and once they push forward. Don't know if it'll be next season, but these guys are going to be back in the playoffs at some point in the very near future. And if this Western Conference is going to stay as weak as it is, I wouldn't be surprised if it's next season.
Yeah. My counterpoint to that is they were buyers at the trade deadline and got I think Thingamajigger from Sherwood from Vancouver,
Yeah,
which is a
but
rental type situation.
no, he re-signed.
Yeah, he ended up re-signing, but like they were buyers, and then it fell apart. Like that's I know it's not a huge buy, but that's where
Yeah,
I
yeah,
I'm like you probably should have done better,
yeah,
especially in the Pacific. All right, 21 New York Islanders with
yeah. That's
a
mine
kind of a
too.
capitulation as well. Another
Told
team.
you. I told you they would. I told you they'd fall apart at the end of the season.
Oh wow. Okay. Did you tell me
Cool.
Buffalo would go up to almost finish number one in the league and stuff? No. All right.
Yes, yes, I did.
All right. So 3-7 in their last 10, lost the last three. They were still very like they were losing the games. They came up against some hard opponents, but they weren't getting destroyed in the games, but it's still kind of getting destroyed if that makes sense. Like it did it didn't look as bad as it probably felt, if that makes sense. But that feeling of how bad it is makes it look bad. Um,
Yeah.
Ultimately, it's a over jump. I think a lot of people had him probably at 32, or 30 or lower at the start of the season. So it's been a good run. It hampers them, probably in the long run, but
Mhm.
especially not getting playoff experience for the young kids, even if it's a first round exit. So kind of a disappointing season to end it, really.
Yeah, and they were buyers too. They went out and got Braden Shen and Andre Pilat and all of that, and all of it was ultimately to fall short. And like the good thing about Pilat and Shen, obviously, is that they're not rentals. They had term, but
Yeah,
I just don't know if.
Plat's not the answer.
Oh,
Let's be
definitely
honest.
not. Not
But
not for 6 mil either. But I just don't know if they come out next season and do what they did this season, like for the first part. We could actually see the Islanders be really, really bad next year.
it,
Um,
it, it
so
depends
I'm
what the GM does on
yeah,
on this type of season. Does he think I can fast track it or not?
mhm,
And there, I think
yeah,
it all stands on how they play the off season. If they don't do
but
anything, I don't think they repeat this type of run personally.
yeah, it's going to be interesting, that's for sure. All right, 20 for me. I got the Los Angeles Kings.
Yeah, same.
Honestly, I if it wasn't for the Islanders, Ducks, and Jackets being so bad, I would have had these guys a lot lower. Um, they are 20th in the standings, 6-2-2, and they currently hold a playoff spot. And well, they're in the playoffs. It's done. The season's over. But this team is not good, and if they don't get swept by the Avs, I will be extremely surprised. I, they're 6-2-2 in their last 10, and then I went and had a look at who they played, and it was all low end Pacific teams. You know, they're playing Seattle, they're playing Calgary, they're playing Vancouver, and I'm like, yeah, cool. Like you should have gone 6 from 6 of that week. Um, they've just like to get into the playoffs with 35 wins. 35 wins, Jaden. Like they
It's like
are.
7 less than New Jersey, I think it is, or something like that.
Well, if
Um,
you go down the standings, there's you've literally
it's
got 21st New
eight less than
Jersey.
the Oilers that we just talked about.
Exactly right.
Look, it
St.
stands
Louis.
that you gotta be competitive and take it to like that's the point of it, right? You gotta be competitive in the first 60, whether you lose it in OT or whatever. But
33 games went to overtime.
yeah,
33 games. That's insanity. But yeah, look, if they come out and somehow even take one game from the Avs, I will be very surprised.
I won't be. If it's anything they've shown, they play decent regulation. It
Mm.
they cannot do OT. and there's no 3-on-3 slash shootout in playoffs. So, and yeah, I don't think their roster's as bad as their record shows, but a lot of it is with these Pacific teams, they eat the other Pacific teams, and it gets flamboyant, or whatever you want to call it. On to 19, New York Rangers, a team that was been down at the bottom for a long time,
Mm-hmm.
finished strong. Um, yeah, the Metro team that didn't fall apart, but was never in a chance for a playoff spot. They finished 6-4 in the last 10. They ended up with 34 wins, so same amount of wins as Calgary, more wins than Toronto, and we all know how bad New York was for pretty much the whole season. So that's to put it in perspective on
And
how
only
good.
one less win than the Kings, don't forget.
Yeah, but that's the thing. They didn't take games to OT as much because they were not competitive at all. They could not score at the start of the season, on getting shut out. So yeah, look, it's interesting to see what they do. It's a good little run for it, but they've sold a lot of things that I they they need a proper full rebuild in my opinion. But I do like Lafreniere and a few other assets. But I'm interested to see how they move on. But yeah, good strong run. It didn't really matter at the end of it. It probably cost them maybe a draft spot at number 2 if they could have capitulated a little bit more. If they could have, but Chicago, they probably were always better than Chicago anyway. So ultimately, yeah, not too bad. It was just a horrible start to the season that ruined everything.
Yeah, for sure. All right, 19. Nashville Predators.
Oh, same.
Yeah, disappointing. Disappointing. They looked like they were going to be the team to make it. Fell away a little bit at the end. They still had a really strong finish. That's why they're still at 19. But probably just a little bit disappointing that they faltered right at the end. 4-5-1 in their last 10. Lost their last two games, which ultimately, if they could have won those two, they would have been in a playoff spot. So, little bit disappointing there from the Predators, but all in all, uh, they showed that if they can put it together for long enough, they can be a decent side.
Well, they got a good squad. Like you look at that roster and it's like a lot of old vets. I'm actually surprised they didn't do it because I would have thought with all that experience they could have they know how to play those type of scenarios, but it just
Mm.
they're lacking depth and stuff. On to 17, the New Jersey Devils. I did not
Yeah, same.
like having them here, but just so many people capitulated at the end. It's kind of they didn't do anything, just everyone around them fell apart. Um,
Yep.
but they did end the season with 42 wins, so more than wins than losses. Uh, a lot of that was through OT shootout though, like 13 of those were through OT shootout. So if you lose those, then those wins come down and it looks worse than what it is. 5-4-1 last 10 kind of sums up how they've been for probably like 2 months, 4 months. Um, just pretty much average. And yeah, look, new GM, maybe new coach. We'll have to see if what happens there. GM's never GM before. Being from Florida though, and he had worked at New Jersey before, so there's those relations, and he's a New Jersey fan. So a few teams like Toronto, New Jersey, and whatnot are having new GMs, going to shape things up. I think we're going to see a completely different New Jersey from this season to next season, whether good or bad.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see where they go. All right, on to 16. I have the Vegas Golden Knights.
Ooh, 14.
Yeah, look, a lot similar to what I said about the Kings. Except for I do think that these guys are a stronger team. I think they are a playoff team, but um, if you look at their last 10, I think they're 7-0-3, so there are no regulation losses in 10. They won their last three to end the season. But you look at who they played, and very very bottom end, Seattle, Vancouver. They did get an OT win against Colorado, which is obviously good, but most of their other games, very low end teams. And that to me just like it just shows you how much some of these teams feed off of that Pacific, especially the Golden Knights, the Oilers, the Kings. You getting to play so many bad teams, 3 or 4 times, And yeah, it helps them. And the fact that they only ended up with, what was it, 95 points in a season, like it just shows you that they're not quite there. I still think they've got the squad to do something in the playoffs, but ultimately, it's a really disappointing season from the Golden Knights. Can be turned around if they win the cup or if they go on a
Yeah,
really good run.
I think it was the same with the Oilers though. Like those two teams were always just had to buy a ticket and that's it. It didn't matter how
Mm,
bad it looked.
yeah,
But yeah. On to 16, Utah,
they're my 14.
and yeah, just 6-4 in the last 10. They seem to be around that mark around the all season. 43 wins for the season, plus 28 in goal differential. So they were doing good in that department. Very pretty decent in regards to defense. They've been this season and goaltending. So look, they bought a ticket, and which is great for that organization. It was generally like a long drought for Arizona, but now it's
Mhm.
Utah. So yeah, it's good for them. We get to see some good players in the playoffs finally. But yeah, I'm not sold on them. I still think they're probably one of the weakest of the bunch in
It'll,
regards to the West.
it'll be an interesting matchup against Vegas, that's for sure. All right, going to 15, I have the Edmonton Oilers.
Uh, sorry, 13. What was that?
13. Oh,
That didn't move.
Connor McDavid effect is real. Nah, look,
Well, they would be
6-2 and
32 without him. So yeah.
two. No McDavid, no Draisaitl. Edmonton might not even be in this power ranking.
Mm,
6-2 and 2 in their last 10. Uh, Again, it's one of those things they've been hot for probably the last month or two. Um, but I still not convinced with them. Yes, Bouchard has been on an absolute tear. McDavid's been doing McDavid things. Draisaitl's doing Draisaitl things. But again, it's a team that you can't write off come playoffs because we've seen in the last 2 years. But it's just this is a team that if you just filled this team out properly and put a proper team on paper, McDavid would probably have 3 cups. Like he'd be going for a 3P right now.
yeah.
Um,
Well, he needs a proper defense. Everyone blames goaltending, but they've never had a proper goaltender.
yeah.
Jari was never the solution. Um,
No, he
but
wasn't, but
but
it
it's
just
they get exposed more because of the defense. Like, was it Avs one with Kemper? Like,
yeah,
come on, like it's not always down to the goaltending. So
no, no.
and they didn't win because of Kemper.
And they
So
refuse to address the defense. They always seem to blame the goaltending. So
it's the easiest
until
to
they,
rotate with how
yeah,
everything's structured. Um,
yeah,
but yeah, it's a whole thing. Um, I could go into on to 15 for me. I got St. Louis with a great ending season.
yeah, they're my 13.
Yeah, they just ended really strong. Won the last four, 6-3-1 in their last 10. Um, basically the St. Louis that you would be expecting the whole season showed up too little, too late. They ended up finishing 22nd overall, but yeah, really, really strong outing at the end. Hopefully that means good things for the next year. But honestly, these end runs don't really transition because there's too big of a break. There's too many different changes. It doesn't influence the start of next season. So yeah, ultimately disappointing season for St. Louis.
100%. And that's why I don't care too much about the way teams finish. Like you
Mm.
could win your last 10 games and miss playoffs and I'd be like good for you, mate. Like you didn't make the playoffs. It means nothing. Um all right, on to 12. I have the Pittsburgh Penguins.
Same. I feel like they're better than 12, but that's kind of how they played the last games.
Yeah, 5-5-0, lost their last three. This is the interesting part of it for me. They almost gave up home ice advantage, but they also did have quite a significant lead. Um, and they were never catching the Canes. So it's one of those things, as I was saying before, like these top end teams, sometimes they lose two, three, or four games right at the end, but it's because they know where they're going. Like they're just like, oh well, there's no point. Like we know we're finishing second or we're finishing here. We know we're going to play this team or we know we're going to play the third ranked team. We don't need to really go hard. Um, and teams drop points. So yeah, it's a difficult one. Um, I still think they're really really strong. They come up against the Flyers, so
Yeah.
it's going to
Well,
be
they did the opposite, right? So Flyers ended really strong. And
yeah,
I think taking that momentum into playoffs is way different than taking it to next season. I think
yes, 100%.
that means quite a bit. So that's what worries me about the Minnesota, Dallas's, Pittsburgh's. You know, the teams that we made playoffs, we know who we're versing, and then they coast. But onto
Well,
a
it's why
yeah,
the structure is so stupid because this structure allows for that. This
yeah,
structure has 15 games. You know, Dallas, Minnesota have known they're playing each other. It's a stupid system, needs to be changed,
yeah.
because it does. It hurts these teams
I'm glad this season's happened because it highlights all the flaws on how everything's been done.
for sure.
On to 11, Washington, just finishing outside the top 10, finished very strong, but ultimately don't make the playoffs. Finished 12th in the league. Do not make
Yeah,
playoffs.
yeah,
95 points, which is
insanity.
not any other season you'd probably say is a safe bet for playoffs. And 43 wins, finished 8-2 in the last 10, won the last four. They ended really strong. It was really that blip in the middle of the season that really cost them.
Yeah,
And yeah, that's why they don't get that extra few points to make it. But ultimately, it's just a messed up season. Pretty much any other regular season, they make the playoffs pretty hand in hand.
for sure. All right, on to 10. I have the Boston Bruins.
Same.
Yeah, look, a bit of a slip up towards the end. They finished 5-3-2. They did win their last two games. Um, but yeah, look, still eighth in the standings, and they finish in a wild card spot, and they've got to come up against the Buffalo Sabres, who finished first
Finish
in there.
first. Yeah.
Right, it just doesn't make any sense. Make it make sense, Jaden. Look,
No,
they're, they're
it's why the Minnesota Dallas matchup. You're losing probably a conference finalist right in round one. like,
right, exactly,
it's yeah.
exactly. It's the stupidest thing you've ever seen. But yeah, look, you know, Boston have been strong all season. They have, they've not really floated out of the top 10 much at all. Buffalo is going to have their work cut out for them. First time, Buffalo have been stupidly strong, and if they can play like that in the home and away season in the playoffs, I think they'll take Boston. But Boston will go in with a bunch of confidence, knowing, you know, they've got some playoff experience. I know it's a different Boston than in previous years, and they have had a lot of changes, but this Boston team will go in thinking that they can get a round one win for sure.
All right, on to 9. Team full. I went pretty hard on this just because the ending, though I think these teams top 5. Tampa Bay. It's just how they ended the season. Obviously, it's one of those teams that coast away. Um, Injuries as well, but 5-5 in the last 10. But they end the season with 50 wins, plus 59 goal differential. Like I still think this is a top 5 team. It's just purely on how they finished the end of it with other teams that were in the playoff, still vying for playoffs, playing out of their like really hard and out of their mind, and
Mhm.
they didn't have to do that. So ultimately, I still think this is a top 5 team. It's one of my favorites to win the cup, which is crazy, but you know, get it out of Florida. But yeah, it's just one of those things.
I really hope they don't. I like Tampa, I do. I just want it out of Florida.
Yeah,
Just like
yeah, it's
for
pretty much as simple as that, right? Like I like Tampa. I don't even don't mind Florida, not when they're not
yeah,
being wankers, but yeah,
but 4 years
out of
straight
Florida.
to yeah, well sorry, 4 of the last 5 years or whatever it's been. Yeah, like it's just too
I
much.
want to see someone who hasn't won one in a long time.
Exactly.
That'd be cool.
It would be very cool. All right. Number 9, I've got the Philadelphia Flyers. Speaking of someone who hasn't won one in a while.
They're my number 6.
Oof,
They
oof.
they ended strong.
They ended very strong.
And this is my
The
worry for
crazy,
Pittsburgh. Hmm.
yeah, look, 7-3-0, won their last three. The crazy stat for me is that they're one of the worst, I think, in the league or over a certain period, in power play, penalty kill,
Yeah.
every everything else. But their 5-on-5 play is absolutely phenomenal. They're getting good goaltending out of Ladar. Uh, yeah, it's just they're strong defensively. They don't concede very many shots at all, and they don't take that many shots to score either. So, yeah, it's going to be a real tough matchup for the Pittsburgh Penguins. So I'm excited for that one because I think that's going to be a tight affair, and I think it's going to be a bloodbath. Battle of Pennsylvania, like,
All
that's going to
right.
be wild.
On to 8, Ottawa.
Hey, same here.
Yeah, so this is one of the teams that turned it on when they needed to, and 6-3-1 in the last 10. They make the playoffs, playing really strong. I'm still not sold on them as probably a lot of other people are, but they do have the physicality there to do it. I just think they don't have the consistency. That's my problem with Ottawa, and it's been like that for a long time, for many
Yeah,
years.
yeah, and they need the goaltending to come, which they can get sometimes, and then they don't the others. So
Yeah,
it'd be interesting. All right, at number 7, I have the Minnesota Wild.
same.
Yeah, look, 6-4-0. They finished 7th in the NHL standings. They've been really good. Um, Dallas first up. The fact that one of those two teams is out in the first round is criminal. Um,
And it hurts them for the longevity because they're versing basically a Stanley Cup final type matchup,
well,
straight out of the
the
gate. Yeah,
the way I'll put it to you with this is the Central. It sucks to be in the Central because you win round one, you have to either win it against Dallas, like for Dallas and Wild, you win round one against a really tough team. Then you've got to go and probably play Colorado.
yeah.
It's a dumb system. We can say it over and over again. Minnesota Wild, though, I think they're a good chance to beat Dallas, but it's going to be a ridiculously tough series. Two really good teams. Yeah,
I
I don't know.
I think Dallas got
I
to
don't
win
know.
it. Got to win it because I think they
Mhm.
need a cup. But
Yeah,
I also think Minnesota have to get out of the first round. So
it's a lose lose for both of them,
no,
right?
no, someone's losing pretty bad, and a first round exit is not a first round exit compared to other seasons for Minnesota if
No,
it happens. Um,
yeah,
all right, 5 Dallas their matchup.
Dallas. They're 4 for me. I was like, where'd that put them?
Seven
They
two
are
one,
4.
won the last 5, ended really strong. Taking that momentum in. That's probably why I have them slightly favored over the Wild. Just that little bit of edge. I probably had them pretty much the whole season, like just one bar above, but they've pretty much been neck and neck all season.
They have.
And yeah, look, I just think they're probably star started throughout the lineup a little bit more than Minnesota. Um, and yeah, so strong ending. They finished third in the league. They've been top 5 for a really long time now, though they did have that blip the same time as Minnesota did. But once again, we've covered it. They knew who they were versing. How big is that blip? But
Yeah,
yeah, it'll be interesting to see this matchup. But yeah, strong finish.
for sure. All right, 5 for me, Montreal Canadiens.
My 4.
Yeah, look, drop off a little bit. They finished 7-3-0. Still very strong finish.
Jeez, I wish my
Um,
drop off would be a 7-3-0. Yeah, I
I,
wish that's my drop off.
I think it was losing 3-0 to the Devils. I was like, yeah, can't do that. 5-2 lost to the Columbus Blue Jackets as well. It's just it's one of those things that they're two probably bad losses, but also it doesn't matter. Probably not. Um, Potentially cost it. One of those losses potentially cost them home ice advantage though, so I will point that out. But yeah, look, really, really strong team. And again, another situation like we said with the Central, you're gonna see either Tampa or Montreal out in the first round, and they are your fifth and sixth in the NHL. So third, sixth, third, fifth, sixth, and seventh, two of those teams will not be in the second round.
Yeah, yeah,
Like
like
just
guaranteed. It's
it's
guaranteed. Yeah, yeah,
guaranteed. It's dumb hockey, but do you want to know something? Who is it? Edmonton Oilers and the Anaheim Ducks, who are 14th and 18th. One of those teams are guaranteed to be in the second round.
yeah,
Vegas and Utah. Is it Utah? Yeah, I think it's Vegas and
yeah, yeah.
Utah.
Yeah.
13 and 15. One of those teams are guaranteed to be in the second round.
That's why one is not equal to another.
Nah,
On to number three, Buffalo Sabres. They did hit number one at
yeah,
one point. They didn't retain it, but they did retain top five, which is crazy to say. They retained
incredible.
or retained, earned, whatever you want to say, number one in the division. 6-3-1 in the last 10, and plus 47 in goal differential. Um, yeah, my biggest gripe is that they've. Alright, it's not watching it. It's fun, but it's very like offensive both ways, and I think they could get stifled by a team that finally plays a really good defense against them,
Mhm.
because I don't think they can play really good defense against that team when they do it. Even though they did
Yeah.
keep goals against to 241, which was pretty strong. I think it's like seventh or something in the league. But that's something I've noticed. It's either it can be a blowout sometimes. 5 goals to 6 goals. And that's my
Yeah.
concern for Buffalo. Other than that, it's going to be exciting, and I'm on the
Mm.
bandwagon. I'd love them to win it. That'd be the best thing for
I mean,
hockey.
just
Just hockey.
Buffalo wouldn't know what to do with themselves if they won the cup. They'd be like, we've had
Just oh,
all of this time.
what do we do? Oh, like,
They'd be in absolute disbelief. Craziest thing is that our top three is the division leaders of the Metro Atlantic and the Central. Meanwhile, the Pacific is 14th and 16th. Oh, it's just such a joke. All right, on to number two, anyway, is the Colorado Avalanche.
yeah, it's crazy not having him finish number one, but it is
Yeah,
recent
look,
power rankings, not standings.
number one in the standings. They finished top with the President's Trophy by 8 points, 7-2-1 in their last 10. They won the last three. You could argue that they're number one for sure. I can make an argument. I teetered with it for a little bit, but ultimately, I am really like I just really like the Hurricanes and what they've done. Um, they're going to be ridiculously strong if they get kicked out in the first round by the Kings. I don't know. I we've disproven the President's Trophy curse, but if they got kicked out in the first round by the Kings, we might have to revisit that because,
Yeah, I don't think it's a long shot, as big a long shot as you'd think, but
yeah, I get it. I do. I get it. But like, Avs with the power they have, they really should be making at least. They should be making the second round easy.
yeah.
Second round becomes difficult because they're playing either the Stars or the Wild, which isn't an easy feat. But this is a team that I could see winning it all for sure.
Yeah, my concern for that, as I'm pretty sure they have a poor power play, which is crazy to say. Um,
How do you have a poor power play with McKinnon and McGrath?
it's kind of crazy, but they almost kept goals against under 200, plus 99 in goal differential. Down goal differential, so they're pretty close in two ballparks there to breaking some nice little mental notes. But ultimately, yeah, really strong. Um, yeah, you'd hope they get past round one
Hmm.
honestly, conference final with this type of season.
Yeah,
Otherwise, it's
for
kind of a
sure.
failure. Carolina, number one, as we've mentioned, probably
Yeah.
being the most consistent since Christmas, and just like real big powerhouse when it comes to shutting down teams and making teams play their game, and that's they'll put 30 to 40 shots on you, guaranteed. But you could win with 16 shots. Um, so you've always got the hope there with the Carolina Hurricanes. But yeah, one of the most consistent, 7-2-1 last 10, and I still think number one just because of that consistency. Though Colorado has probably had the better season, just because of how that first half went.
Yeah, I just think the thing that does it for me with the Canes is they they haven't really had a slip off. They haven't had a blip on the radar where they've just gone and plummeted. I think the Avs had something where they went really bad there for a while. Like not really bad, but you got to
Like a
remember they
few
only had
weeks, yeah.
yeah, they only had two. I think they went from two regulation losses to nine in the space of 3 weeks or something like that.
Mm.
Um, whereas you just haven't seen that from the Carolina Hurricanes. They only lost two more games than Colorado did in the season as well. So um, yeah, look, I just think the Canes, they've got a lot. They've got the firepower. They've got the defense. Their goaltending's the big question mark, but they can get it. And Bussy's been good. So yeah, I look. I hope for the Canes fans that this is the year that they can at least make the Cup final because you know always a bridesmaid, never a bride is just it can't be a good feeling. Eastern Conference final after Eastern Conference final, they've got to finally make the jump, and the way they're going, they this year could be that year.
Yeah. All right. Let us know what you think of our power rankings. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment below. We'll be covering the playoff matches and brackets going forward, and do some reviews of series and games. But yeah, till next time. Yeah, check out our content. We'll catch you guys.
Like